Welcome to Eagle Hill Consulting's Management Channel. My name is Stephanie Mount and I'm with Eagle Hill. Today we're here to talk about the strategic importance of performance measurement, and with us we have Jack Dziak. Jack has 2 decades of experience as a Chief Strategy Officer for major companies including Neustar, Sprint and Neustar, Mobile Satellite Ventures, and MCI. In his role as a strategy executive, Jack set the strategic plan and goals of the organization. In doing this, he had to ensure that the goals were both actionable and measurable. So let's hear from Jack. Jack, how important is performance measurement in the strategic management process?
I think it's probably the most crucial thing that an organization can engage in. Fundamentally, the question is, how else does a company allocate scarce resources? You need to understand upfront what my objectives are. You need to understand the back end of how did I do against those objectives, and then change tack accordingly.
So how does strategic performance measurement tie into the operations of the organization?
My sense is if the two aren't linked, it's worthless, to put it bluntly. Strategy formulation and performance measurement has to be linked to tactical performance measurements, has to be linked to, frankly, what do I do Monday morning once strategy has been formulated, financial objectives have been set. In my past, working at Sprint and Neustar Corporation, we had something called a strategy map, which was translated into by organization, by profit center, and by cost center, very specific financial, operating, and technical performance objectives, all linked back to a handful, less than 5, a handful of strategic objectives that company-wide people understood.
What would you define as the key success factors in a performance measurement system?
3 success factors. One is agreement among stakeholders as to what objectives are. I think secondly, and as important, is the consistent application of a performance measurement capability across periods, not just within a year, but across years. And lastly, and I think most importantly, is having a performance measurement process tied directly to the budgeting process.
What are the major roadblocks you've seen in implementing performance measurement systems?
I think there's 3 that I've seen. One of the biggest roadblocks I've seen is where a strategy has been poorly articulated, it's been too complex, or it hasn't been thought through in terms of its executability. Second roadblock I've seen is where that strategy has not been consistently translated into objective, discernible, measurable performance objectives. A third roadblock I've seen is really a byproduct of the other 2 roadblocks, and that is a boil the ocean approach to performance measurement. They've measured anything and everything that wasn't nailed down to a floor. The problem with it, and I'm being somewhat facetious, but only somewhat, the problem is that there have been scores and scores of measurements made, but no clearly articulated set of priorities around which of those are important.
And lastly, what recommendations would you have for organizations that are considering implementing a performance measurement system?
I think first and foremost, if I were to make a recommendation about a company thinking about implementing performance measurement, is tie it to strategy, tie it to your strategic objectives, tie it to your strategic planning process. The second key piece here is, again, agreement amongst stakeholders. Strategy formulation, performance measurement is not something that happens in an ivory tower. It's not something that happens in a closed room. When it's done well, it's done by partnering across the organization, in particular with those stakeholders who have the operational execution responsibility. The last recommendation I would make would be consistency in communication and the continuous nature of communication around what performance measurements should be. Having a clearly articulated and well thought through set of performance measurement objectives will allow you to tack and sway relative to the surprises that the marketplace will inevitably throw at you.
Jack, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share with us your insights on performance measurement. They've been most enlightening. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for having me.